We're back with the Line Opinion panelists for one more final topic this week. The race for the next president of these United States is on. We aren't seeing much activity here in New Mexico yet, but we learned recently that Governor Susana Martinez is expected to chair the Republican Governors Association. And former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson has endorsed Hillary Clinton, you might have seen. Laura, I want to start with you on this. We've heard over the years the National Republican Party might be looking to make Ms. Martinez a golden voice of a sort or a choice for VP. But taking on this leadership role, does that preclude her being chosen for something, or does it just add to her luster, so to speak, and makes her even more viable as a choice?
I don't think it precludes anything at this point. I mean, the RGA position, it's a very well-known position. It means really having a lot of contacts with different governors from across the country.
Right.
It really gives her a little bit more high-profile position, leadership position. And Chris Christie served in this role in the past as chair of the RGA. So it's a pretty important high visibility role, and I think it's one that she probably will do pretty well at. And I think certainly she's still probably being talked about for some kind of leadership position.
You know, Dan, it's not without the RGA position is not without its landmines, so to speak. Sometimes races get hot and people get pulled into things, and there are quotes that, you know what I mean? It's, people run to you for quotes. It's not just a titular head, so to speak. There's things you have to do in this position.
There is. Now, there's two things we got to look at with Susana Martinez. Whatever you think about her as governor, she's done a pretty good job of not saying the wrong things. You know, she seems to be very scripted. She gets out, makes her comments, and walks away. So I think she'll avoid those pitfalls and those minefields as the head of the RGA. But what she does have, that Laura I think was alluding to, is the pen. The amount of money that the head of the RGA gets to start deciding whose races they go into. And that's also during a presidential election. So if you're now the head of the RGA and you get to decide where money's going to be spent to help Republicans running for governor, and you're able to have that conversation with the National Republican Party based on polling and demographics for the presidential race, think of where that elevates someone like Susana Martinez, who really has the ability to say, we're going to go into North Dakota, we're going to go into Ohio, we're going to go into Florida, and we're going to spend $100 million on those governor's races, because the long-term ramifications of the presidential election or whatever we're doing, that elevates her, I think, to a whole new stratosphere of favors that are going to be owed back.
Interesting. I want you to pick up on that, if you would, Senator. That's an interesting point there, because you can be a king or queen maker in that position.
Absolutely, and the money is key. I mean, she goes in with a $24 million war chest, and remember, this money is not just for governors and the presidency, but it has spent on legislators as well. And in 2014, the Governors Association gave $6.8 million. The Republicans Governors Association gave to New Mexico, to Susana Martinez, and to Republican candidates for the House. So I think that's key, but I think there is a risk also. Susana Martinez has been looms large on the state stage, but on a national stage, she hasn't really been on Meet the Press and all of those talk shows. She hasn't been a spokesperson on a national stage, even in opportunities where she could have been, except for her appearance at the convention. So this, this presents a risk, and it also, of course, can be very unpopular with your legislature when you are out of state, whether as a Governors Association. It's ironic that Richardson had the counterpart position and received a lot of fire from being out of state for that. So this may happen here as well with her. So, it could go either way. There's a risk for her in this.
Speaking of Governor Richardson, Rob Nikolewski, interesting. Did you sense it was a bit early for him to endorse Hillary Clinton? Is something about the timing of that a little interesting to you?
It was. If it was a couple of months ago, you would have thought, because Hillary was riding high. There were still some questions about the email, but the email thing has not gone away.
Right.
And if anything else, it seems like her star is beginning to fade. Bernie Sanders is picking up some points, and also Joe Biden might jump into the race. So that was interesting. The other interesting thing from watching that George Stephanopoulos interview was that no one on the panel asked former Governor Richardson if he was interested in working in a Clinton administration. I don't know, maybe that ship has passed, maybe it hasn't.
Right. It seemed to be an interesting, let me go to you on this, it seemed to be this interesting public display of, I'm good with the Clintons now. almost not really an endorsement, 49% an endorsement, but 51%, I'm good with the Clintons now. Maybe getting to Rob's point, maybe something down the road might be waiting for him. You never know.
You know, I think Governor Richardson is wanting to be in line with those people that were broke when they came out of the White House, like Hillary Clinton was. I think at the end of the day, you know, they're very powerful people. Yeah. Bill and Hillary Clinton are very powerful people in and out of politics.
Yeah.
And if you're Governor Richardson, I think a lifetime in exile from the Clintons is not a very comfortable position to be in. So, you know, if you want to do your penance and you want to make up for past ills, you know, right now when Hillary's under fire, now's the time to step forward, and I think it can really wipe the slate clean because, you know, there's probably a lot of rats jumping ship right now with the secretary. To have him step forward, I think probably makes up for some past sins that gets him at least back in good graces with Bill and Hillary.
I could see that. You know, I could also see Laura Sanchez that one of the things, if I was on the Bernie Sanders team, I'd be disappointed in this because if you think about when Bill Richardson was running for president, he was the only guy out there talking about unionization. I mean, a lot of real lefty items that would fit natural with Bernie Sanders' point of view, and he didn't get it. That would be a disappointment to me. How would you see that?
Well, I'm sure it is a disappointment for the Bernie Sanders campaign. But it's, you know, it's politics. It's definitely something that I'm not entirely surprised, just given that they had such a strong connection with the Clintons before, to be able to overcome the Obama issue. You know, the Obama endorsement in 08. It's not just an issue, it was an endorsement.
Right, exactly.
You know, it is important. It's important.
Yeah.
I agree with Dan. I mean, to be able to overcome that is important for Richardson moving forward, whether he wants a position in the administration or not.
I think also, I got to say, Gene, I mean, anybody that thinks Bernie Sanders and Bill Richardson are ideologically aligned is never paid attention to Governor Richardson's career.
That's right.
Interesting.
I mean,
I agree. I agree.
I mean, the guy's pro-business, the guy's for tax cuts.
Yeah.
You know, he's been on record as pro-life. I mean, you go through all of the stuff. I don't see many places that Bernie Sanders and Bill Richardson.
Maybe the environment.
Interesting.
Maybe the environment.
I mean,
but even then,
certainly
I would say I'll
environment.
bet that Bernie Sanders and Bill Richardson don't agree on the environment because Bill Richardson is the energy secretary, is involved in
He's been on
agrees with
boards
drilling.
of- right,
Yeah, I mean, I
exactly.
just don't see many places that Bernie
but
Sanders
I think
and him
any
would.
high profile, you know, and I would say this is an important high profile given the demographics, given where he represents. You know, he's a Western governor. He's obviously held some national positions.
That's right.
Hispanic, absolutely. It's still important to get as many of those kinds of endorsements as you can, and so I think it's still a huge disappointment for them.
We're under a minute on this one, but I got to get this one in, Senator Feldman. This interesting idea of Donald Trump having probably the most high-profile Spanish language newscaster on this continent removed from an event and then coming back and having a real go with him about that, about immigration. Where do you think that's going to go? I think he picked a fight with the wrong guy.
Oh, I do
mean,
too.
Jorge is,
I do too.
You know what I mean?
He's off the reservation in many, many ways, but that is probably Trump.
Yes.
Probably the worst way is in the immigration area because it so affects and I think there was a favorability rating. He loves to cite his favorability ratings among different groups. The unfavorability rating amongst Hispanics is 65%.
Yeah, there you go.
And even though Governor Martinez is going to be the Republican Governors Association, if she's going to be running that thing or she's going to be the head, she's going to get Trump questions.
That's right. It's a good point. That's all the time we have. Join us online to hear the panel's take on repurposing a factory on the edge of Albuquerque. I'm Gene Grant. As always, we appreciate your time and effort to stay informed and engaged. And we'll see you next week in Focus.